Until you have given up yourself to him, you will not have a real self, asserted C.S. Lewis. You spend your entire life building a monument to a ghost. You call it me. You dress it in fashion, you feed it with titles, you protect it with insurance policies, and you polish it with the approval of strangers on a digital screen. You believe that this collection of memories, preferences, and fears constitutes a soul. It does not. It is a shell. You are a prisoner who has fallen in love with the bars of your own cage. The modern world tells you to find yourself, to be true to yourself, and to express yourself. This is the ultimate deception of the 21st century. It is a circular journey that leads only back to the vacuum of your own ego. Look at your reflection. You see a face, a history, a social security number, and a job description. You think this is the protagonist of the story. You are mistaken. What you call your identity is merely a mask that has grown too tight, suffocating the eternal breath that was meant to animate you. Your bank account is the ledger of this hallucination. You believe that the numbers rising and falling in a digital database define your security or your worth. You think that by accumulating wealth, you are thickening the walls of yourself against the encroachment of the void. But the more you possess, the less you exist. Every dollar you cling to as a mark of your individual power is another link in the chain that keeps you separated from the reality. You are like a man trying to own a piece of the sun by catching its rays in a box. The moment you close the lid, the light is gone, and you are left holding nothing but darkness and cardboard. Your career is no different. You trade your vital energy, the only currency that matters in the eyes of the infinite, for a title that will be erased from the office door the week after you die. You define yourself as a manager, an engineer, a creator, or a laborer. These are not identities. They are costumes. When the play ends and the lights go out, who is the actor beneath the cloth? If you cannot answer that without referring to your resume or your tax returns, you have already lost your soul to the myth of the individual. The illusion of separation is the greatest pain of the modern heart. You feel alone even in a crowded room because you have bought into the lie that you are a discrete unit, a self-contained island of consciousness floating in a hostile sea. You guard your privacy, your rights, and your personal space as if they were holy relics. In doing so, you have severed the umbilical cord that connects you to the great life. C.S. Lewis understood that the self is not a thing to be improved, but a thing to be surrendered. It is like a seed. As long as the seed remains whole and hard, tucked away in the safety of its own shell, it is nothing but a potentiality. It must rot. It must break. It must cease to be a seed if it is ever to become a tree. Your current self is that hard, dry seed. You are so afraid of the rotting process, the ego death, that you refuse to grow. You prefer the safety of your smallness to the glory of the forest. Consider the anxiety that keeps you awake at night. It is the friction of the self rubbing against reality. You worry about your reputation, your future, and your legacy. Why? Because the self is inherently fragile. It is a house built on sand, and deep down, you know the tide is coming. Every moment of your day is spent in a desperate attempt to shore up the foundations. You seek more followers, more praise, more comfort. You believe that if you can just reach a certain level of success, the self will finally feel solid. It never will. The ego is a bottomless pit. You can throw the whole world into it, and it will still cry out for more. The purpose of your life is not to fill that pit, but to realize that the pit itself is an optical illusion. There is no you to be satisfied. There is only the divine life waiting to flow through you, provided you stop obstructing the channel with the debris of your personality. Your eyes lie to you every morning. They show you a world of separate objects: my car, my house, my neighbor, my enemy. This is the vision of a fragmented mind. If you could see with the eyes of the Spirit, you would see a single pulsing web of being where every individual is merely a knot in the same thread. Your insistence on being unique is your greatest obstacle to being real. True personality is not found in being different from others, but in being united with the Source. When you look at the stars, you do not see them competing for brilliance. They simply shine because they are part of the celestial fire. You, however, are exhausted. You are tired of the performance. You are tired of being the director, the actor, and the critic of your own life. This exhaustion is a gift. It is the signal that the self is beginning to fail. Do not try to repair it. Let it collapse. Only when the false self lies in ruins can the true architectural masterpiece of your being be revealed. You believe you are the owner of your thoughts and the master of your fate. This is the arrogance of the shadow. You are a mirror. A mirror has no light of its own. If it tries to be its own source of light, it remains dark and useless. Its only glory is to reflect the sun. When the mirror is clean and turned toward the light, it becomes indistinguishable from the light itself. But if the mirror becomes obsessed with its own frame, its own spots, or its own shape, it loses its purpose. You are currently obsessed with your frame. You are polishing the edges of your ego while the center remains dim. Turn around. Face the reality that exists behind the veil of your daily concerns. Stop asking, "What do I want?" and start asking, "What is being asked of me?" The shift from the subjective I to the objective thou is the only revolution that matters. Your true potential is not the expansion of your ego, but its evaporation. This is a terrifying thought to the modern mind, which views the loss of individuality as a kind of death. It is a death, but it is the death of a parasite. The self has been feeding on your joy for decades, telling you that you will be happy when or if. It dangles the carrot of fulfillment just out of reach, ensuring that you keep running on the treadmill of desire. Lewis invited us to step off the treadmill. He invited us to realize that the real you is not the one who is running, but the one who is watching the runner. You are not your feelings. You are not your bank balance. You are not your traumas. You are the space in which these things happen. Until you surrender the self, you are merely a ghost haunting your own life. Give it up, every bit of it. The desires you think are your own, the opinions you guard so fiercely, and the life you think you are living. Throw it all away, and you will find, for the first time, that you are standing on solid ground. Of all the passions, the passion for the inner ring is most skillful in making any man who is not yet a very bad man do very bad things, observed C.S. Lewis in his address to the students of King's College. You are starving for a room you have never entered. You spend your days pacing the corridors of your own existence, looking for a door that has no handle, seeking an invitation to a circle that does not exist. This is what Lewis called the inner ring. It is the invisible boundary that separates the insiders from the outsiders. You feel its pull every time you check your notifications, every time you compare your LinkedIn title to a peer's, and every time you feel the cold sting of being left out of a conversation. You think that if you could just get inside, if you could just reach that specific tax bracket, that level of influence, or that social circle, the gnawing void in your chest would finally be filled. You are wrong. The inner ring is a mirage designed to keep you running until your heart stops. It is the primary tool the self uses to keep you enslaved to the opinion of others, preventing you from ever touching the hem of the divine. Look at your professional life. You do not work to create, you work to belong. You believe that your job title is a key that will eventually unlock the door to the inner sanctuary where the real people live. You endure petty humiliations, you suppress your intuition, and you adopt the jargon of the hive mind, just to prove you are one of them. You have traded your primordial wildness for a seat at a boardroom table that will be sold for scrap wood in 50 years. Your self whispers that this is necessary, that this is climbing, but you are actually descending into a pit of mimicry. When you look at your colleagues, you are not seeing souls, you are seeing competitors for the same imaginary prize. This is the ultimate triumph of the myth of the individual. It makes you believe you are a singular hero while forcing you to act like a carbon copy of everyone else in the room. You are terrified of being ordinary, yet you have never been more generic than when you were trying to be successful. Your bank account is the scoreboard of your exclusion. You check the balance, and you feel a momentary surge of pride or a crushing weight of despair. Why? Because you have linked your very essence to a number. You believe that wealth is the ultimate inner ring, the one that will finally protect you from the messy, unpredictable reality of being human. You think that enough capital will buy you a permanent in status, exempting you from the suffering of the outworld. But the more money you accumulate to protect the self, the more walls you build between yourself and the spirit. Wealth, in the hands of the ego, is a thick layer of insulation that prevents you from feeling the warmth of the true sun. You are like a man who covers himself in gold leaf to stay warm, only to find that the gold has blocked his pores and he is suffocating from his own vanity. Your preoccupation with security is actually a manifestation of your deepest insecurity. The fear that without your possessions, you are nothing. And Lewis would tell you, until you realize you are nothing in the worldly sense, you can never be everything in the spiritual sense. The digital world has amplified this nightmare. Your social media profiles are shrines to a self that does not exist. You curate your life for a phantom audience, seeking the inner ring of digital validation. Every like is a hit of morphine for a dying ego. You are performing a play for an audience that is busy performing their own plays for you. It is a hall of mirrors where no one is actually looking at anyone else, but everyone is desperate to be seen. This constant externalization of your identity is a leak in your soul. You are pouring your vital energy into a vacuum. The self loves this game because it thrives on comparison. As long as you are comparing your behind the scenes with someone else's highlight reel, you are trapped in the illusion of separation. You feel inferior or you feel superior, but you never feel unified. You have forgotten that the only ring that matters is the one that encompasses all of creation, a circle whose center is everywhere and whose circumference is nowhere. Consider the bad things Lewis mentioned. You do not have to be a criminal to do very bad things. You do them every time you betray your conscience to fit in. You do them when you laugh at a joke that isn't funny because a superior told it. You do them when you remain silent in the face of injustice because speaking up would make you an outsider. You do them when you neglect your family or your own spiritual health to chase a promotion that promises you entry into the inner ring. These are the small, daily betrayals that erode the true self and strengthen the mask. Every time you prioritize the ring over the truth, you are hammering another nail into the coffin of your potential. You think you are playing the game to get ahead, but the game is actually playing you. It is consuming your time, your focus, and your capacity for genuine love, leaving you with nothing but a hollow title and a restless mind. The desire for the inner ring is the desire to be special at the expense of being real. To be real is to be common in the most beautiful sense of the word, to share in the common life of the universe. To be special is to be separate, to be better, than to be included while others are excluded. The self cannot exist without this hierarchy. It needs the out to define the in. It needs the poor to define the rich. It needs the failure to define the success. But this binary is the architect of your misery. When you finally stop trying to get inside, the doors vanish. You realize that you were never outside to begin with. You were always at the heart of reality, but you were too busy looking for the VIP entrance to notice. Your true potential is found in the moment you stop trying to be someone and allow yourself to be no one. In that emptiness, the divine can finally take up residence. You are exhausted because you are trying to sustain a fiction. The weight of your persona, the professional you, the social you, the successful you, is becoming too heavy to carry. This exhaustion is not a sign of failure. It is the beginning of your liberation. It is the self finally running out of fuel. Do not try to find a new source of energy for your ego. Let the engine die. Let the ring lose its luster. When you no longer care if you are in or out, you are finally free. You can walk through the world without the armor of your status or the weapon of your ambition. You can look at another human being without calculating their value to your self. You can work without the desperation for recognition, and you can possess money without being possessed by it. This is the true potential Lewis pointed toward. A life where the self has been so thoroughly surrendered that only the light remains. The first step is to try to forget yourself altogether. Your real new self will not come as long as you are looking for it. It will come when you are looking for him, declared C.S. Lewis. You are terrified of the void. You believe that if you stop asserting your I, if you stop shouting your name into the digital abyss, you will simply cease to exist. You treat your identity like a drowning man treats a piece of driftwood, clinging to it with white-knuckled desperation, unaware that the wood is what is keeping you from learning how to swim. This self you are so eager to protect is not a solid foundation. It is a tumor of the spirit. It grows by consuming your capacity for wonder, your ability to love, and your connection to the eternal. You wake up every morning and immediately begin the frantic work of self-construction. You check your emails, your social feeds, and your bank balance to remind yourself who you are. You look for your reflection in the eyes of your peers and the metrics of your productivity. You are a ghost trying to prove it is made of stone. This is the great tragedy of the modern soul. You are so obsessed with being a person that you have forgotten how to be a being. You are a mask that has forgotten there is a face behind it. Look at the way you view your career. You do not see it as a means of service or participation in the creative work of the universe. You see it as a fortification for the ego. You believe that your professional achievements are bricks in the wall of your identity. You think that the higher you climb, the more real you become. This is a lie. The higher you climb the ladder of the world, the more you are required to leave your true essence behind. You trade your authenticity for authority. You trade your peace for prestige. You have become a servant of the brand of you. Every time you perform for your boss, every time you polish your public persona, you are offering a sacrifice to an idol that can never love you back. Your job is not who you are. It is a role you are playing in a play that will eventually close. If you were to lose your position tomorrow, your ego would scream that you are nothing. That scream is the sound of the false self suffocating. Do not try to save it. Let it die. Only when the professional self is stripped away can the eternal self begin to breathe. Your relationship with money is the most visible symptom of your spiritual sickness. You believe that wealth provides a buffer against the insignificance of the individual. You check your bank balance and feel a sense of substance. You think, I have this much, therefore, I am this much. You are attempting to weigh your soul in currency. But money is the ultimate abstraction. It is a symbol of a symbol. By tying your sense of self to your net worth, you are tying your soul to a vapor. You are like a man trying to anchor a ship to a cloud. The more you accumulate, the more you have to lose, and therefore, the more fearful you become. The self thrives on this fear. It tells you that you need more security, more assets, more capital to ensure that your specific individual existence continues to matter. But the reality is that the more you own, the more you are owned. Your possessions are the graveyards of your freedom. Lewis understood that the new man does not need to own anything because he is a part of everything. He does not seek a balance because he is already in a state of total abundance within the divine. The modern obsession with self-care and self-discovery is merely the ego's way of keeping you trapped in the hall of mirrors. You are told to look deeper into yourself, to find your truth. You go to retreats, you read books, you follow gurus, all in an attempt to find the real you hidden under the layers of social conditioning. But what you find when you look into the ego is only more ego. It is a bottomless pit of desires, memories, and neuroses. You cannot find the light by looking deeper into the shadow. You find the light by turning your back on the shadow and facing the sun. Your true potential is not something you find. It is something you become by losing the searcher. As long as there is a you that is looking for a self, there are two of you, and neither is real. The division is the delusion. C.S. Lewis challenged you to realize that you are like a salt crystal. As long as you remain a separate hard grain, you are just a bit of salt. But when you are dissolved in the soup, you fulfill your purpose by giving flavor to everything while seemingly disappearing. You don't lose your essence in the divine. You find your function. You are afraid of being erased. You think that if you give up your opinions, your preferences, and your uniqueness, you will become a mindless drone, a cog in a celestial machine. This is the fear of the dark, and it is unfounded. Does the light of the sun make the flowers look all the same? No, it reveals their true colors. Without the light, they are all equally gray in the dark. The self is the dark. Your insistence on being different is what makes you industrious and dull. It is only when you are illuminated by the light of the real that your true eternal colors are revealed. You are currently a parody of yourself, a caricature drawn by the expectations of your culture and the traumas of your past. You are not original. You are a repetition of a billion other egos, all fighting for the same scraps of attention and validation. True originality is only found in the divine. There are no two saints that are alike, but all sinners are depressingly similar. Your uniqueness is a prison. Your unity with the infinite is the only freedom. The clock is ticking, and the self is aging. Every day the mirror shows you the decay of your monument. Your body is failing, your memories are fading, and the world is moving on without you. The ego reacts to this with panic, seeking legacy or rejuvenation. It wants to stay in the game, but this decay is a mercy. It is the crumbling of the prison walls. You are being forced to realize that you cannot take you with you. The I that you have spent decades building is a temporary structure designed for a temporary world. If you cling to it until the end, your death will be a catastrophe, the total destruction of everything you believe yourself to be. But if you give it up now, if you surrender the self while you are still breathing, then death has nothing to take from you. You will have already crossed the threshold. You will have already traded the shadow for the substance. The purpose of your life is not to leave a mark on the world. The world is a chalkboard that will be wiped clean. Your purpose is to be transformed. You are a caterpillar that thinks its true potential is to become a bigger, faster caterpillar with a better job and a larger leaf collection. You cannot even imagine the butterfly. You are afraid of the cocoon because it looks like a grave. But the cocoon is where the self is dismantled so that the being can emerge. C.S. Lewis didn't want you to be a better version of yourself. He wanted you to be a new creature entirely. This requires a total, unconditional surrender of every claim you have on your own life. You must stop saying, "my life, my time, my money, and my soul." None of it is yours. It is all alone. When you finally hand the keys back to the owner, you will find that you are not a tenant anymore. You are a son. You are not a guest in the universe. You are the heir to everything. But you cannot inherit the kingdom as long as you are trying to rule your own tiny, miserable backyard. The more we get what we now call ourselves out of the way and let him take us over, the more truly ourselves we become, declared C.S. Lewis in his seminal work, Mere Christianity. You are obsessed with your own uniqueness, yet you have never been more of a caricature. You spend your life polishing the edges of your personality, convinced that your quirks, your specific tastes in music, your political stances, and your curated aesthetic make you an individual. They do not. They are the standardized components of a mass-produced ego. The modern world has sold you the lie that to be real is to be different. But in your desperate quest for difference, you have only succeeded in becoming a louder version of the same static. Your self is a project you were trying to manage, a brand you were trying to build, and a wall you were trying to defend. C.S. Lewis saw through this charade. He understood that what you call yourself is actually the primary obstacle to your existence. You are like a man who refuses to open his eyes because he is too busy describing the color of his eyelids. You think you are protecting your autonomy, but you are merely guarding a vacuum. The tragedy is not that you might lose your identity. The tragedy is that you are wasting your life trying to sustain an identity that was never yours to begin with. Look at the way you handle your finances. You believe your bank account is a measure of your individual power and a safeguard for your self. You think that by accumulating wealth, you are making your I more solid, more permanent, more resistant to the world's indifference. This is the ultimate hallucination. Your money is not a shield, it is a weight. Every dollar you cling to as a mark of your personal success is another brick in the fortress of your isolation. You check your balance and feel a momentary surge of being, but that feeling is a ghost. You are attempting to buy a soul with currency, trying to fill an eternal hole with temporal digits. The self tells you that poverty is the loss of identity, but Lewis would tell you that your attachment to wealth is what truly erases you. You have become a servant to the numbers, a guardian of the pile, and in the process, the real you, the one who was meant to mirror the infinite generosity of the Creator, has been suffocated by the greed of the self. You are not an owner. You are a temporary steward of a handful of dust. Until you can look at your bank account and realize it has nothing to do with your worth, you will remain a slave to the myth of the individual. Consider your career path. You treat your job title as if it were a sacred name. You introduce yourself by your profession as if being an executive, an influencer, or a consultant defined the essence of your spirit. You have allowed a temporary social function to cannibalize your eternal being. You spend 40 hours a week or more acting out a script written by a corporation or a market trend, all while telling yourself that you are expressing your potential. This is not potential. It is a performance. You have fused your skin to the costume, and now you are afraid to take it off because you suspect there is nothing underneath. Your professional self is a parasite that feeds on your time, your health, and your relationships. It promises you status in the inner ring, but status is just another word for a more expensive cage. C.S. Lewis knew that the only way to find your true vocation is to stop trying to be somebody in the eyes of the world. Your true potential is not found in the promotion you chase or the accolades you receive. It is found in the silence that remains when the world stops clapping. The feeling of being separate from others is the poison of your daily life. You walk through the streets viewing every other person as an other, a potential threat to your personal space, or a competitor for the resources your self requires. You guard your privacy as if it were a holy relic, unaware that privacy is often just another name for the hell of being alone with your own ego. This sense of separation is a visual defect of the soul. You see the waves, but you refuse to see the ocean. You think that by being independent, you are being strong. Lewis challenged this fiercely. He argued that we are members of one another, parts of a single organic whole. Your self is the disease that tries to convince the hand it doesn't need the heart. When you suffer, you think it is your suffering. When you succeed, you think it is your success. This possessiveness of experience is the wall that keeps you from the divine. The purpose of being human is not to be a standalone unit, but to be a transparent window through which the light of the universe can shine. As long as you are opaque with the self, the light cannot pass through. You are terrified of the idea of being taken over. You hear Lewis talk about letting the divine take us over, and you think of possession, of the loss of will, of becoming a zombie. This is the ego's defense mechanism. The ego wants you to think that control is freedom. But look at your life. Is your control making you free? You are controlled by your anxieties, controlled by your desires, controlled by the opinions of people you don't even like. Your will is a tangled mess of compulsions. To be taken over by the reality is not to lose your will, but to finally have it aligned with the only thing that is actually real. It is the transition from being a broken, static-filled radio to being a perfectly tuned instrument. The music that comes through is not yours, yet it is the only thing that makes you truly you. The more you get out of the way, the more your specific, beautiful, eternal character can finally manifest. You are currently a blur. Surrender is what brings you into focus. The self is a hungry ghost that can never be satisfied. It tells you that you will be happy when you reach the next milestone, when you find the right partner, when you buy the right house. It keeps you in a state of perpetual becoming so that you never have to face the now. It is a distraction from the terrifyingly beautiful presence of the divine in this very moment. You are so busy being a person with a future that you have forgotten how to be a creature in the presence of its creator. C.S. Lewis invites you to a radical act of spiritual treason. Betray your ego. Stop being its lawyer. Stop defending its fragile feelings. Stop feeding its bottomless vanity. The moment you stop caring about your story, the great story can begin to write itself through you. Your bank account may rise or fall, your job may come or go, your body may age and fail, but these are just movements in a dance you no longer feel the need to lead. In that surrender, you find the only self that can survive the death of the world. You find the identity that was hidden in the divine before the stars were made. You are not a self-made man. You are a God-made being. Stop trying to be the sculptor and start being the clay. We are half-hearted creatures, fooling about with drink and sex and ambition when infinite joy is offered us. Like an ignorant child who wants to go on making mud pies in a slum because he cannot imagine what is meant by an offer of a holiday at sea. We are far too easily pleased. C.S. Lewis wrote with devastating clarity in his sermon, The Weight of Glory. You are starving in a banquet hall because you have fallen in love with the crumbs on the floor. You believe your hunger is for a higher salary, a more prestigious title, or a larger home. But these are merely the mud pies of a spiritual slum. You have been conditioned to believe that your ambition is a virtue, a sign of a driven individual, yet Lewis reveals it as a symptom of a profound lack of imagination. You are not too ambitious. You are not ambitious enough. You settle for the tepid satisfaction of a quarterly bonus, while the ocean of infinite reality beats against the walls of your heart. You have built a life out of cardboard and tinsel, decorating your self with the fleeting approval of a marketplace that does not know your name. You think you are winning the game of life, but you are merely the most successful child in a gutter. Your eyes are fixed on the dirt because you are terrified that the light of the holiday at sea would demand more of you than you are willing to give. You have traded your inheritance as a son of the infinite for a temporary lease on a shadow. Look at your bank account through the lens of this cosmic slum. You check the numbers and feel a sense of accomplishment, perhaps even a moment of peace. But what are those numbers? They are the measure of your mud pies. You believe that security is found in the accumulation of digital digits, yet you are trying to anchor a soul made for eternity to a world made of vapor. You are easily pleased by the thought of a comfortable retirement, which is nothing more than the permission to sit in your slum without being bothered. You have forgotten that money is a tool for the self, and the self is a prison. When you prioritize the growth of your capital over the expansion of your spirit, you are choosing the slum over the sea. You are terrified of losing what you have because you do not realize that you possess nothing. The self uses your bank balance as a wall to separate you from the great unity, making you believe that your survival depends on your separation. It is a lie. Your survival depends on your surrender. You are holding on to a handful of mud while the Creator offers you the stars. Your employment is the primary site of this half-heartedness. You spend your most vital hours performing tasks that benefit a machine that will replace you without a second thought. You call this building a career. Lewis would call it fooling about. You have allowed your job to define the limits of your potential, convincing yourself that if you can just reach the next rung of the corporate ladder, you will finally be in. But the ladder is leaning against a wall that is about to crumble. You are trading the gold of your time for the lead of a title. You worry about your performance reviews and your industry standing, oblivious to the fact that you are a spiritual being currently suffocating in a cubicle of your own making. The ambition you feel is a misplaced desire for the glory of God, redirected into the trivial pursuit of worldly influence. You are trying to find the infinite in a spreadsheet. You are looking for the sea in a drop of stagnant water. Your work should be an act of worship, a participation in the divine creativity, yet you have turned it into a transactional cage where you sell your soul for the privilege of remaining in the slum. The inner ring of your professional circle is the most seductive mud pie of all. You want to be in the know, to be part of the group that makes the decisions, to be one of the important people. You believe that this inclusion will solve the ache of your loneliness. But this is the illusion of separation at its most potent. The more you try to be an insider in the world, the more of an outsider you become to your own soul. You adopt the masks of the slum to fit in with the other children. You suppress your intuition, you ignore your conscience, and you polish your ego until it shines with a false light. You think you are moving toward the center, but you are moving toward a vacuum. The only inner ring that matters is the one you are already part of by virtue of your creation, the communion of all things in the divine. By chasing the earthly ring, you are turning your back on the only circle that can actually hold you. You are choosing the cramped, smelly corner of the alleyway because you are afraid of the vast, open horizon of the holiday at sea. Your self-care and your hobbies are often just more mud pies. You seek relaxation in consumption, believing that a new gadget, a luxury vacation, or A refined palate will satisfy the gnawing hunger within. These are just better decorated slums. You're trying to manage your half-heartedness instead of curing it. You are far too easily pleased by a week in a resort when you were meant for a life of transfiguration. You treat your spiritual life as a side project, a hobby to be pursued when the real work of the slum is done. But the real work is the holiday. The real work is the sea. Everything else is a distraction. Your current existence is a series of compromises designed to keep the self comfortable and the ego fed. You are afraid of the infinite joy because joy is a fire that consumes everything that is not real. You prefer the lukewarm soup of your current desires to the burning ecstasy of the truth. You are a creature designed for the weight of glory, yet you are content with the weight of your possessions. You feel the angst of modern life because your soul knows it is living in a slum, even if your ego is living in a penthouse. The disconnection you feel from others is the natural result of trying to own your own piece of the mud. When you look at your neighbor, you see someone who might take your mud pie or someone whose mud pie is bigger than yours. This is the hell of the individual. In the sea, there is no ownership, only immersion. In the sea, your uniqueness is not a wall, but a specific way of reflecting the light. Until you stop fooling about with the trivialities of your ambition and your status, you will never know what it means to truly be. You will remain an ignorant child, clutching a handful of dirt, crying because the dirt is drying up and blowing away in the wind. Lewis is not calling you to a life of grim duty. He is calling you to a life of infinite joy. He is inviting you to drop the mud and walk towards the water. The New Testament does not know anything about solitary religion. We are forbidden to neglect the assembling of ourselves together. We are members of one another, as C.S. Lewis observed when deconstructing the modern obsession with independence. You believe that you are a sovereign nation of one. You stand before the mirror every morning and see a discrete, autonomous entity that begins at your skin and ends at your toes. You have been told that your highest achievement is to be self-made, to be a person who owes nothing to anyone and who answers only to the reflection in the glass. This is the foundational lie of the 21st century. It is the architect of your profound loneliness and the source of that quiet, desperate anxiety that hums in the background of your life like a faulty power line. You are not an island. You are a cell in a body you have chosen to ignore. By asserting your independence, you have effectively performed a spiritual amputation on yourself. You are a severed hand, wondering why it feels cold and useless, trying to find meaning by gripping more things, not realizing that meaning only exists in its connection to the arm. This sovereign self you guard so fiercely is a fiction created by your ego to keep you from the terrifying, beautiful reality of total interdependence. You think that by being separate, you are being strong, but you are actually just being small. You have traded the vast, interconnected life of the spirit for the cramped, airless room of your own personality. Look at your bank account through the lens of this fragmentation. You view your savings as your fuck you money, the capital that ensures you don't have to depend on anyone else. You believe that every additional zero in your digital balance is another layer of insulation between you and the other. This is the psychology of a parasite. You are accumulating resources to protect a self that refuses to participate in the common life of humanity. You think your wealth makes you safe, but it actually makes you isolated. It reinforces the delusion that you can survive, thrive, and find peace while your neighbor suffers. Lewis understood that the body is a reality, not a metaphor. If the heart tries to hoard all the blood for itself, the heart dies along with the body. Your preoccupation with your personal financial security at the expense of communal connection is a slow-motion suicide. You are building a golden cage, and you are surprised that you feel trapped. The sovereign self uses your bank account to convince you that you are a predator in a world of prey or a victim in a world of oppressors. It prevents you from seeing that every dollar is a thread in a tapestry that connects you to the laborer in the field and the clerk in the store. Until you surrender the idea that your money is yours and realize it is part of the circulation of the great life, you will never be free from the fear of loss. Your job is the primary arena where you perform this myth of separation. You go to work to make a name for yourself, to get ahead, and to beat the competition. You view your colleagues as obstacles or stepping stones, rarely as members of one another. You believe that your productivity is a measure of your individual worth, and you fear that if you stop running, the self will vanish. This is the frantic energy of a ghost trying to haunt a machine. You are performing a role in a hierarchy designed to reward the most aggressive ego, yet you wonder why your work feels meaningless. Meaning is found in the great dance, as Lewis called it, the harmonious movement of all creatures in accordance with the divine will. When you work only for the advancement of your persona, you are dancing out of step. You are a violinist trying to play a solo during a symphony, wondering why the music sounds like noise. Your professional burnout is not a result of overwork. It is a result of miswork. It is the exhaustion of trying to sustain a separate identity in a universe that is fundamentally unified. You are carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders because you have forgotten that you were meant to be carried by the one who made the world. The digital landscape has turned this separation into a commodity. You are encouraged to build your brand, to market yourself, and to stand out. Every platform you use is a machine designed to strengthen the self at the expense of the body. You post your opinions not to seek truth, but to signal which tribe you belong to, further deepening the trenches of us versus them. You are addicted to the inner ring of digital validation, seeking the approval of a crowd that is just as lonely and fragmented as you are. This is the ultimate triumph of the myth. It makes you feel connected through a screen while ensuring you remain spiritually isolated. You are seeking a digital unity to replace the mystical unity you have rejected. You think that by having 1,000 followers, you are less alone. But you are actually just surrounded by 1,000 other egos, all shouting into the same void. CS. Lewis would look at your smartphone and see a device that enables you to ignore the person sitting right next to you, the very person who is a member of you, in favor of a phantom image of a person 1,000 miles away. You are trading the substance of communion for the shadow of communication. The proposito humano is not to find your truth or to express yourself. Your purpose is to be integrated. It is to move from the isolation of the I to the communion of the we. This is not a call to some vague, soft-headed altruism. It is a call to a hard, crystalline reality. You are part of a structure. If you refuse your place in that structure, you do not become free. You become debris. You are currently the debris of your own ambition. You feel a sense of unmet potential because you are trying to fulfill that potential within the narrow confines of your own ego. You are like a cell that wants to be the whole body. It is only when you surrender your claim to sovereignty that your true potential can be unlocked. When the cell stops trying to be the body and starts being a cell, the body thrives and the cell finds its perfect function. Your bank account, your career, and your social status are all toys. They are mud pies in a slum. The holiday at sea is the realization that you are not yours, that you belong to another, and that in that belonging you find the only identity that cannot be taken from you. Stop asking what you are getting out of your life and start asking what you are contributing to the body. The shift is subtle but tectonic. It is the difference between a cancer cell and a healthy one. The cancer cell is the ultimate individualist. It grows without regard for the whole, and in doing so, it destroys the very life it depends on. Your modern self is a spiritual cancer. It is growing, accumulating, and asserting itself while your spirit withers. Surrender the self to the reality of the whole. Realize that your neighbor's joy is your joy, and their sorrow is your sorrow. This is not a moral suggestion. It is a biological fact of the spirit. Until you live this truth, your bank balance will always feel like a countdown, your job will always feel like a treadmill, and your being will always feel like a question without an answer. You are a member. Act like one. Join the great dance. Stop trying to be the choreographer and start being the movement. The music has been playing since the dawn of time. It is only yourself that is deaf to it. Nothing that you have not given away will ever be really yours, declared C.S. Lewis in the final pages of Mere Christianity. You are currently a prisoner of your own acquisitions. You wake up in a room filled with objects you claim to own, staring at a digital screen that displays numbers you claim to possess, while inhabiting a body you claim as mine. This possessive pronoun is the primary architect of your misery. It is the invisible wall that separates you from the reality of the universe. You believe that by accumulating yours, you are expanding your existence. In truth, you are merely thickening the walls of your tomb. Every dollar you lock away, every piece of knowledge you hoard for professional advantage, and every emotion you refuse to share is a stone you have placed in the barricade between your soul and the divine. You are like a man trying to capture the wind in a jar so that he might have it. The moment the lid is closed, the wind ceases to be wind. It becomes stagnant air. Your life is becoming stagnant because you are obsessed with ownership. You have forgotten that you are a channel, not a reservoir. A reservoir that does not flow becomes a swamp. You are currently a spiritual swamp, wondering why you feel heavy, dull, and disconnected from the vibrant pulse of the infinite. Look at your bank account through the eyes of a man who is about to die. In that final moment, the numbers on that screen will reveal their true nature. They are hallucinations. They are symbols of a social contract that the self uses to feel significant in a world it does not understand. You spend 40, 50, 60 hours a week trading your vital energy, the very breath of God within you, for these digital ghosts. You tell yourself this is for security, but what are you securing? You're trying to secure the self against the inevitable flow of life. You are trying to buy a stay of execution from the reality of change. C.S. Lewis understood that the more you cling to your resources, the more they own you. You do not possess your wealth. Your wealth possesses your attention, your anxiety, and your time. You are a servant to a pile of metal and paper that has convinced you it is the source of your worth. Until you can look at your balance and see it as a tool for the whole rather than a shield for the eye, you will remain a pauper in the kingdom of the Spirit. Your potential is being strangled by your possessions. Your employment is another form of this possessive delusion. You speak of my career, my reputation, and my achievements. You view your professional trajectory as a monument to your individual will. But what is a career in the face of eternity? It is a flicker of a candle in a hurricane. You have allowed your job title to become a secondary skin, a persona that you wear so tightly you can no longer feel the air on your real flesh. You are terrified of losing your position because you have equated your doing with your being. If you are not a manager, an engineer, or a creator, then who are you? If the self you have built through your labor is stripped away, you fear you will find a vacuum. This fear is the ego's greatest weapon. It keeps you running on the treadmill of more to avoid the silence of is. Your true purpose is not to be a successful person. Your purpose is to be a transparent window for the truth. When you work for your own glory, you are an opaque brick. When you work as an act of surrender, the light can finally pass through you. The self-made man is a hollow idol. The God-made being is the only reality. The illusion of separation is most painful in your desire for privacy and independence. You have been taught that being independent is a virtue, that needing no one is the mark of a hero. This is the logic of a cancer cell. A cell that decides it is independent of the body is a cell that has begun to destroy the body and itself. You guard your personal time and your private thoughts as if they were holy. Yet they are the very things that keep you isolated in the dark. You feel a deep, gnawing loneliness even when surrounded by friends because you refuse to let the walls down. You are performing identity for them, and they are performing identity for you. It is a masquerade of ghosts. Lewis challenged us to realize that we are members of one another. This is not a poetic sentiment. It is a mechanical fact of the spirit. Your joy is diminished because you think it is yours. Your sorrow is unbearable because you think it belongs only to you. In the great reality, there is only one joy and one sorrow, and we are all participants in it. To be solitary is to be unreal. You believe you are the protagonist of a story that is all about you. You analyze your past, you worry about your future, and you obsess over your current mental health. This self-focus is a downward spiral. The more you look at yourself, the less you see. You're like a man trying to see his own eyes without a mirror. You are the subject, not the object. Your true potential is found when you turn your gaze outward toward the other, toward the reality that exists independent of your opinions. The self is a small, dusty room. Why do you insist on living there when the entire universe is waiting for you? Your bank account will never be large enough to fill the void of your isolation. Your career will never be prestigious enough to justify your existence. Your existence is already justified by the fact that you are a manifestation of the infinite. But you cannot feel that justification as long as you are trying to own your life. You must give it away, every bit of it. Stop trying to find yourself. You are not lost. You are just hiding behind your ego. You are hiding behind your degrees, your bank balance, and your social standing. You are afraid that if you step out from behind these things, you will be vulnerable. You are right. You will be vulnerable to the truth. You will be vulnerable to the love that moves the sun and the other stars. This vulnerability is the only state in which you are actually alive. The self is a suit of armor that has become a coffin. It is heavy, it is cold, and it is narrow. C.S. Lewis invites you to take off the armor. It will feel like losing your skin. It will feel like death. But it is the death of the parasite, not the host. The new man is not a better version of you. He is the one who remains when you have finally surrendered. The holiday at sea is not a destination you reach by working harder. It is the state of being that occurs when you finally stop trying to own the ocean. Your current being feels like a question because you are looking for the answer in the wrong place. You are looking for it in the individual, but the individual is a fragment. A fragment can never be whole. You find your wholeness in the union. You find your purpose in the assembly. You find yourself only when you have forgotten about it entirely in the service of the real. This is the true potential that the world cannot understand. It is the potential to be a vessel for the eternal. But a vessel must be empty to be useful. You are too full of yourself. You are full of your plans, your fears, and your stuff. Empty the vessel. Give away your claim to your life. Stop being the owner and start being the offering. In that total surrender, the illusion of separation vanishes, and for the first time, you will know what it means to truly be. The bank account may remain, the job may continue, but the you that was enslaved to them will be gone, replaced by a life that knows no boundaries. Hand over the whole natural self, all the desires which you think innocent as well as the ones you think wicked. The whole outfit. I will give you a new self instead, C.S. Lewis promised as the voice of the eternal. You believe you are the architect of your own soul. You stand amidst the debris of your desires, clutching a blueprint of a life that was never yours to design. The natural self you cling to is a construct of clay and fear, a collection of habits you call a personality and fears you call a history. You are terrified of the exchange Lewis proposes. You think that by handing over the whole outfit, you will be left naked and non-existent. You do not realize that you are currently wearing a leaden suit at the bottom of an ocean, wondering why it is so difficult to breathe. This self you guard, this me that wants to be respected, successful, and secure, is the very thing that prevents you from existing. You are a shadow trying to negotiate with the light. You think your innocent desires, the desire for a stable career, a respectable bank balance, a sense of belonging, are harmless. They are not. They are the anchors that keep you tethered to the illusion of separation. As long as you have something you call mine, you have a reason to fear the other. As long as you have a self to protect, you are at war with reality. Look at your bank account through the lens of this total surrender. You check the numbers and you feel a sense of substance. You believe that this capital is an extension of your natural self, a fortification against the void. You think, if I have this, I can be who I want to be. This is the ultimate deception. Your money is not an asset. It is a ledger of your attachments. It is the measure of how much of the world you have tried to claim as yours to avoid claiming your place in the divine. The self tells you that wealth is freedom, but Lewis knew that wealth is often just a more comfortable prison cell. Every dollar you hold with the intention of securing your natural self is a dollar that stands between you and the new self. You are trying to buy a future for a ghost. You are saving up for a rainy day in a world that is already underwater. True potential is not found in the accumulation of resources for the ego, but in the radical poverty of the spirit that owns nothing, so it can inherit everything. You must hand over the bank account, not just the money, but the idea that the money defines your safety or your worth. Until the numbers on that screen are as indifferent to you as the dust on the road, you are still wearing the old outfit. Your employment is the wicked desire you have dressed up as a virtue. You call it ambition or providing, but under the surface, it is a desperate attempt to prove your existence through utility. You have become a functionary of your own ego. You spend your life force building a monument to a name that will be forgotten before the concrete is dry. You believe that your professional achievements are part of your real self, yet they are merely the accessories of the natural self. You are a costume seeking a wearer. When you walk into your office, you are not a human being. You are a job description seeking validation. Lewis's demand is visceral. Hand over the career. Hand over the success. Hand over the failure. These are all parts of the outfit that keep you trapped in the illusion of being a separate, striving unit. You think that if you stop striving, you will fail. Reality says that until you stop striving, you cannot begin to live. The new self does not work for a salary or a title. It works as an outpouring of the divine life. It does not seek to be someone. It is content to be the space through which the Creator acts. Your current job is a distraction from your true vocation, being a conduit for the infinite. The illusion of separation is the thread that holds your outfit together. You feel separate from your neighbor because you are both wearing different costumes, competing for the same stage time. You guard your privacy and your intellectual property because you believe your thoughts and your time are yours. This possessiveness is the rot at the center of your being. You are a cell in a body that thinks it is the whole organism. This is not independence. It is insanity. You suffer from a loneliness that no amount of social interaction can cure because the self you bring to those interactions is a wall, not a bridge. You are performing connection while maintaining your boundaries. Lewis calls for the demolition of those boundaries. He calls for the whole outfit to be thrown into the fire. Only when you have nothing left to protect can you finally be one with the other. Your true potential is not to be a unique individual, but to be a unique reflection of the unity. The more you get out of the way, the more you there actually is. But it is a you that no longer fears the world because it no longer views the world as outside. You are exhausted because you are trying to be the source of your own life. You are a lamp trying to create its own electricity. You spend your days managing your energy, your moods, and your image, terrified that if you let go, the light will go out. Hand over the lamp, hand over the wires. Hand over the whole outfit of your self-generated existence. The new self is not a better you. It is the divine life taking up residence in the space where you used to be. This is the proposito humano, to be a temple, not a landlord. You are currently trying to collect rent from a soul that belongs to the Almighty. This is why your being feels like a burden. It is a burden because you are carrying it yourself. Surrender is the act of putting the burden down. It is the realization that you are not responsible for your existence, your success, or your legacy. You are a guest in a universe of grace. Stop trying to pay for your stay with your achievements. The bill has already been settled. The new self that Lewis promises is not a reward for good behavior. It is the natural consequence of ego death. It is the butterfly that emerges only when the caterpillar has been completely liquefied. You are currently in the liquefaction stage and you are fighting it. You call it anxiety, depression, or midlife crisis. But it is actually the divine mercy trying to dissolve the outfit that is suffocating you. Do not resist the dissolution. Do not try to fix your old self. You cannot patch a garment made of shadows. You must let it fall away. When you stop looking for yourself in the mirror of your bank account, your career, and your social standing, you will find the real self looking back at you from the heart of the eternal. This is the only potential that matters, the potential to be a son of God. But a son does not own the house, he lives in it. A son does not earn his father's love, he reflects it. Give up your rights. Give up your identity. Give up yourself. Throw it all into the abyss, and you will find that the abyss is actually the everlasting arms. A mirror has no light of its own. If it tries to be its own source of light, it remains dark and useless. C.S. Lewis wrote, exposing the futility of human self-sufficiency. You are a mirror that has fallen in love with its own glass. You spend your entire life polishing the surface, obsessing over the frame, and adjusting the angle to catch the most flattering shadows of the room. You believe that the image you see is the source of the light. You are wrong. You are currently dark, cold, and profoundly useless because you have turned your back on the only sun that matters. This is the crisis of your modern identity. You are trying to be the light instead of the reflection. You wake up every morning and look into the digital screen of your smartphone, the black mirror of the 21st century, seeking a reason to exist. You look for validation in the metrics of your social reach, the growth of your professional network, and the perceived stability of your digital identity. But a mirror that tries to create its own light only succeeds in becoming a void. You are a void wrapped in a persona. You are a hollow space that has been decorated with the debris of a consumerist culture, and you wonder why, despite all your efforts at self-improvement, you still feel like a ghost in your own home. The self you are so desperate to improve is not a light source. It is a film of dust that prevents the true light from reaching the glass. Look at your bank account through this lens of borrowed light. You believe that the capital you accumulate is your own brilliance. You check the balance, and you feel a surge of warmth, a sense of shining in the eyes of the world. But this warmth is artificial. It is the glow of a phosphor screen, not the heat of a star. Your wealth is merely a collection of reflective shards you have gathered to make yourself look brighter. You think that if you can just reach a certain level of net worth, you will finally possess a light that cannot be extinguished. This is the myth of the self-made sun. C.S. Lewis understood that the more a man tries to be his own source of security, the more he enters the darkness of the shadow. Your money is a reflection of a system that is as temporary as a sunset. When the system shifts, or when your life ends, the mirror is shattered, and the light you thought you owned vanishes instantly because it was never yours. You are exhausted by the effort of maintaining this financial luminosity. You are tired of the anxiety that comes with guarding your shards. True potential is not found in the size of the mirror, but in the clarity of the glass. Until you realize that your bank balance is a total abstraction that has no power to illuminate your soul, you will remain a darkened object in a dark room, screaming at the shadows for a light you refuse to receive. Your career is the frame you have built around your mirror. You believe that the more ornate the frame, the higher the title, the more prestigious the firm, the more recognizable the brand, the more valuable the reflection. You have spent decades carving this frame out of your time, your health, and your integrity. You define your being by the wood and gold of your professional status. But a frame does not create a reflection. It only limits it. You have boxed yourself into a narrow definition of self that is compatible with a spreadsheet, but incompatible with the infinite. When you walk into your office, you are not looking for the truth. You are looking for a surface that will show you the version of yourself you have spent so much energy constructing. You are performing for an audience of other mirrors, all of them equally dark, all of them trying to borrow light from one another. This is the inner ring at its most pathetic. A circle of shadows convinced they are a constellation. C.S. Lewis invites you to break the frame. He invites you to realize that your job is not a source of identity, but a location of service. The moment you stop trying to use your career to be someone, you become a window through which the divine can actually work. But as long as you are obsessed with the frame, you are opaque. You are a wall masquerading as a gateway. The illusion of separation is the belief that your mirror is the only one in the room. If you guard your privacy, your intellectual property, and your personal brand, because you believe they are the things that make you, you. You view other people as objects to be reflected or as obstacles that block your light. This is the loneliness of the ego. You are trapped in a hall of mirrors where every surface shows you only yourself, or a distorted version of yourself. You cannot see the other because you are too busy looking at your own reflection in their eyes. This is why your relationships feel transactional and your community feels like a crowd. You are seeking a unity that yourself is designed to prevent. Lewis challenged us to turn the mirror around, to face the reality that exists outside the narrow confines of the yin aishi. When the mirror is turned toward the divine, it no longer sees itself. It sees only the light. And in seeing only the light, it becomes, for the first time, what it was meant to be. It becomes radiant. It becomes a participant in the illumination of the universe. Your uniqueness is not found in your differences from others, but in the specific, unrepeatable way you reflect the one truth. You are currently suffering from a feeling of being that is fragile and intermittent. You feel real only when you are being recognized, only when you are winning, only when the mirror is being polished by the praise of others. The moment the praise stops, you feel yourself fading. You feel the cold of the void creeping in. This is because you have built your existence on a reflection of a reflection. You are a shadow of a ghost. C.S. Lewis didn't want to help you build a better ego. He wanted to lead you to the place where the ego is unnecessary. He wanted you to experience the new man, the being who doesn't need to check the mirror because he is already immersed in the light. This requires a total surrender of your rights to yourself. You must give up the right to be special, the right to be independent, and the right to be the owner of your life. These rights are the dust on the glass. Wipe them away. Throw the mirror into the fire of the divine presence. What remains is not nothingness, but the only thing that is truly real. You'll find that when you stop trying to be, you finally are. The modern world tells you to shine your light. Lewis tells you that you have no light to shine. This is the most liberating truth you will ever hear. If you have no light of your own, you can stop the frantic, exhausting work of trying to generate it. You can stop the performance. You can stop the grind of self-construction. You can simply be still and let the light find you. The light is already there, beating against the back of your mirror, waiting for you to turn around. Your bank account, your career, your social status, they are all irrelevant to the light. They cannot help you catch it, and they cannot prevent it from transforming you. The only thing that can prevent the transformation is your insistence on being your own source. Stop being a darkened sun. Become a clear mirror. Or better yet, become a window. Let the self evaporate until there is nothing left but the transparency of a soul in union with its creator. Only then will you fulfill your true potential. Only then will you move from the myth of the self to the reality of the spirit. It is when I turn to Christ, when I give myself up to his personality, that I first begin to have a real personality of my own, wrote C.S. Lewis in the concluding chapters of his most famous theological broadcast. You are a thief of your own existence. You spend every waking hour trying to steal a personality from the world, scraping together bits of fashion, political opinions, and professional titles, hoping that if you pile them high enough, they will finally constitute a you. They do not. They are merely the stolen goods of a ghost. The modern world has seduced you into the cult of self-expression. But what is there to express? A void? A collection of echoes? You have been taught that to be free is to be independent of the divine. Yet this independence has only left you as a slave to the trends of your decade and the neuroses of your own mind. You are terrified of the personality of the Creator because you think it will erase your own. You do not realize that you currently have no personality. You only have a set of symptoms. You are a carbon copy of 1,000 other people who are also trying to be different. C.S. Lewis saw through this tragedy. He understood that the new man is not a better version of your current self, but a creature who has finally allowed the source of all light to illuminate the specific, unrepeatable glass of his soul. Until you turn toward that light, you are just a dark object in a dark room, indistinguishable from the shadows you fear. Look at your bank account through the lens of this borrowed identity. You believe that your net worth is the measure of your substance. You check the balance to confirm that you exist, that you have weight in the world, and that your self is secure. This is a hallucination. You are attempting to build a soul out of digital digits. Every dollar you hoard as a mark of your independence is another brick in the wall of your isolation. You think your money makes you real, but it only makes you a more expensive version of the same void. You are a mirror trying to be the sun, convincing yourself that the gold leaf on your frame is the same thing as the fire in your core. The self uses your financial status to keep you trapped in the illusion of separation. It tells you that as long as you have more than the person next to you, you are more you. This is the logic of a cancer cell. It thrives by separating itself from the body, and in doing so, it ensures its own destruction. Your true potential is not found in the growth of your assets, but in the total surrender of the idea that assets define you. Until you can lose your wealth without losing yourself, you have no self to speak of. Your employment is the costume you wear to hide your transparency. You introduce yourself by your job title, manager, developer, creator, executive, as if these temporary social functions were eternal truths. You have allowed the myth of the individual to convince you that your labor is your identity. You spend 40 hours a week performing a role, and then you wonder why you feel like an actor who can no longer find the exit to the theater. You are terrified of being ordinary. Yet there is nothing more ordinary than a person who defines themselves by their paycheck. Your professional self is a parasite that has hollowed you out. It has taken your time, your focus, and your vital energy, leaving you with nothing but a resume and a deep sense of unfulfillment. C.S. Lewis would tell you that your true vocation is not found in the work of your hands, but in the orientation of your heart. The proposito humano is to be a channel for the infinite, but you have turned yourself into a reservoir for the trivial. You are obsessed with your standing in a world that is passing away, ignoring the only standing that matters, your position in the great reality. Stop trying to be a success and start trying to be a son. One is a performance, the other is a state of being. The feeling of being that you experience in your quietest moments is often a feeling of lack. You feel a gap between who you are and who you are meant to be. The modern world tells you to fill this gap with more experiences, more knowledge, and more self-care. Lewis identifies this gap not as a failure, but as a signal. It is the friction of the natural self rubbing against the new man. You feel uncomfortable because you are outgrowing your current skin. The self tells you to stay small, to stay safe, and to stay separate. It tells you that the other is a threat to your autonomy. This is the illusion of separation at its most lethal. It keeps you locked in the inner ring of your own ego, where you are the only inhabitant. Your potential is not to be a sovereign island, but to be a member of the body. You are made for union, not for competition. Every time you prioritize your privacy or your rights over the needs of the whole, you are strengthening the prison bars. You are choosing the solitary religion of the ego over the communal life of the spirit. This choice is the source of your burnout. You are carrying the weight of a world you were never meant to rule. You are exhausted because you are trying to invent yourself. You are a sculptor trying to be the sculptor. You spend your days chiseling away at your image, trying to find the perfect form that will finally satisfy the critics. Stop the work. Drop the tools. The self you are trying to create is an idol, and idols are always heavy. The new self that C.S. Lewis describes is not something you make. It is something you receive. It is the result of the great surrender. When you stop trying to be someone, you allow the divine to make you truly somebody. This somebody is not a better-looking, richer, or more famous version of your current self. It is a being who has transcended the need for those things. It is a being who is so grounded in reality that the fluctuations of the bank account and the changes in the job market are merely ripples on the surface of a deep ocean. This is the only potential that is worth your breath. Everything else is a mud pie in a slum. The clock is ticking, and the persona you have built is already beginning to decay. Your beauty will fade, your titles will be given to others, and your money will be spent by people who did not earn it. If these things are your self, then you are already dying. But if you give them away now, if you surrender your claim to them and hand over the whole outfit to the Creator, then you will find that you are indestructible. You will find that the real you was never the one in the mirror, but the one who was looking through the eyes. Lewis didn't want to save your ego. He wanted to drown it so that the true man could swim. You are standing on the edge of the abyss, clutching your identity like a security blanket. Throw the blanket into the dark. Step off the ledge. You will not fall, you will fly. But you cannot fly as long as you are carrying the weight of yourself. The illusion of separation is the gravity of the ego. Surrender is the only way to break the law of that gravity. Give up yourself, and you will find your real self. Lose your life, and you will save it. Submit to death, death of your ambitions and favorite wishes every day, and death of your whole body in the end. Submit with every fiber of your being, and you will find eternal life, insisted C.S. Lewis in his final uncompromising appeal. You are currently a man desperately clutching a handful of water, convinced that if you squeeze your fingers tight enough, you can keep the river from flowing. This self you are so terrified of losing is not a treasure. It is a weight. It is a collection of curated memories, borrowed tastes, and defensive reactions that you have spent decades assembling into a fortress. You believe that your favorite wishes, your dream house, your ideal partner, your specific vision of success are the things that define you. They are not. They are the bars of your cage. Every time you say, "I want," you are reinforcing the walls of the natural self, a creature of the earth that is destined to rot. C.S. Lewis understood that the new man cannot be born until the old man is completely dismantled. You cannot have both. You cannot keep your individual brand and your eternal soul. You are standing in the middle of a burning building, trying to decide which of your gadgets to save while the roof is collapsing over your head. The death of your ambitions is not a punishment, it is a mercy. It is the only way to clear the ground for a structure that can actually withstand the pressure of eternity. Look at your bank account through the lens of this daily death. You view your savings as the ultimate favorite wish, the one that makes all other wishes possible. You believe that your financial security is the same thing as your existential security. When the balance goes up, your self feels more solid. When it goes down, your self feels like it is evaporating. This is the ultimate proof that you are living in a hallucination. You are attempting to buy immortality with a currency that will not be recognized at the border of the real. Your preoccupation with your net worth is the primary mechanism by which the self avoids the submission Lewis demands. You think, "I will surrender once I am safe," but safe is a moving target that the ego uses to keep you running forever. Your bank balance is not your life. It is a ledger of your resistance to God. Every dollar you cling to as a mark of your independence is a vote against the divine unity. Until you can look at your wealth and realize that it is absolutely irrelevant to your being, you are still a servant of the natural self. You are a ghost trying to buy a house in a world made of light. Your employment is the ambition that you are most afraid to let die. You have spent years building a professional persona that you believe is the real you. You think that your title, the manager, the creator, the expert, is a fundamental part of your spirit. It is merely a costume. You have fallen in love with the mask and forgotten the face. Lewis challenges you to submit with every fiber of your being to the death of this professional identity. This does not mean you stop working. It means you stop being your work. Most people go to their jobs to be someone. They seek the inner ring of corporate status to feel in. This is a spiritual trap. Your job should be a site of surrender, not a site of self-construction. Every time you use your career to bolster your ego, you are hammering another nail into the coffin of your potential. Your true potential is not to be a successful human, but to be a vessel for the eternal. But a vessel must be empty. You are too full of your career goals. You are too full of your professional reputation. You must let these things die every single morning before you log on, or you will spend another day merely decorating your own tomb. The illusion of separation is the air you breathe in the 21st century. You believe you are a discrete unit, a solitary mind in a body that belongs to you. You guard your privacy and your intellectual property as if they were holy relics. This is the solitary religion of the ego that Lewis so fiercely condemned. You feel lonely even in a crowd because you have built a life on the premise that you are separate from the person standing next to you. You are not. You are members of one another. This is a physiological fact of the spirit. Your insistence on being unique is what makes you isolated. True uniqueness is only found when you lose yourself in the unity. A drop of water that insists on staying separate from the ocean will eventually dry up and disappear. A drop that joins the ocean is the ocean. Your modern anxiety is the sound of a drying drop. You are terrified of the ocean because you think it will erase you. You do not realize that the ocean is the only thing that can keep you from evaporating into nothingness. Your eyes are lying to you. They show you a world of separate objects, my house, your car, his job. This is the vision of the natural self, a vision designed for survival in a world of scarcity. But in the world of the spirit, there is no scarcity. There is only the infinite. Your favorite wishes are based on the idea that there isn't enough to go around. So you must get yours. This competitive self is the greatest obstacle to your peace. You are exhausted because you are constantly defending your territory. You are defending your ideas, your time, and your money. This defense is what Lewis calls the whole outfit of the self. Give it up. Stop defending. If someone takes your idea, let them. If the bank balance falls, let it. If your reputation is attacked, let it be. Only when you stop defending the self will you discover the I that cannot be harmed. The eternal life Lewis promises is not a reward you get after you die. It is the quality of life you experience the moment you stop trying to protect your identity.